Good afternoon, everybody. Mo Stacks here on Dollars and Duets, and today we're going to be talking about Microsoft and AMD earnings, which were just released this afternoon. So let's get straight to it. In terms of Microsoft's cloud strength driving the fourth quarter results, I kind of wanted to look directly into their financial statements. As I always inform everyone, if you want to actually look at the underlying data rather than other people telling you about the release of the data, type into Google Microsoft or whatever ticker and investor relations. Go to the investor relations page. And if earnings were just released, it's going to be one of the first couple of links that are there, right? And then I go figure out where the financial statements are on Microsoft's page. They're here. And then I go kind of dig into all of the data, right? So for me, as it relates to Microsoft, typically, like, there are earnings expectations where people are expecting Microsoft to uh, hit a certain number in terms of revenue and earnings per share. And I usually go look at that just from Googling, right, to figure out what the expected number is supposed to be in terms of revenue or earnings per share. Microsoft was expected to report 64.44 billion. They reported 64.73, which was a slight beat. Earnings per share $2.94 versus $2.95. Another slight beat. Like, it beat its expectations, but it didn't really blow it away, right? Looking at the specific segments, the productivity and business processes segment grew by approximately 2 billion from last year's quarter. The intelligent cloud services, or Azure, grew 5 billion from last quarter, and the more personal computing market grew about 2 billion from last quarter. So Microsoft is growing its earnings. If you don't know what these specific segments are, you can Google that as well, right? So I found that on Microsoft's investor relations page. So when you're looking at, like, the breakdown of their three segments of revenue, productivity and business processes is primarily like Microsoft Office 365 and LinkedIn, right? Those are the two major things in that segment. Intelligent cloud is Azure and all of their products, like their enterprise products within Azure, right? And then more personal computing is essentially Windows, with the money they make off of pretty much licensing Windows, as well as like their devices like the Surface, Xbox, search and news advertising, right? But Windows makes up most of that revenue right there, right? So that's Microsoft earnings. And just to show you once again, just because you slightly beat expectations does not mean that um, your stock price is going to go up, right? So Microsoft ended today at 422.92, and it seems like people were more negative on the news because in after hours it got all the way down to 389, which is like, what, a $30 drop. It's climbed back up since, and it's back up to 411. So it's not such a crazy drop now, but initially it seems that a lot of investors didn't really like the news, right? So let's go to AMD now. All right. So AMD, conversely, investors reacted positively to its news. AMD is a semiconductor company, right? So it makes the chips for a lot of gaming computers. They're trying to get into the AI space, right? I shouldn't say try. They are in the AI space now, trying to compete with NVIDIA specifically, right? So if you're looking at AMD, and let me see where their net revenue was 5.8 billion, which was up from 5.4 billion in terms of the quarter before, as it relates to the June. This is 6 months. It's up from last quarter, right? So the net revenue is growing. The margins are growing, up by 2%, right? And but specifically, just going to find their segment and category information here, their data center, which is the fastest growing portion of their business, went from 2.3 billion to 2.8 billion from a quarter ago, right? And their client revenue is up slightly by what, $100 million, and their gaming revenue, here's the only like negative thing that I could really find, is that their gaming revenue seems to be declining. So whatever money they were making from making chips from the Xbox and the PS4 or PS5, right, that seems to be declining. And it seems that the data center is the portion that keeps growing for this particular company. Let me see, look at the expectations. So here, the revenue expectations was 5.72 billion, and they reported 5.84 billion, which is a 2% prize or 2% surprise, which is pretty positive. It's I wouldn't say it's a slight beat. It's a beat, but it's not a crazy beat. And the earnings per share was supposed to be 68 cents, and it's actually 69 cents, right? So 1.26% beat. So not like a crazy earnings like reporting for AMD, but I would say it's positive. It looks like the AI portion of the company is still growing, right? Or revenue from data centers is still growing, so that's probably really good for the semiconductor sector. If you're looking at AMD's chart specifically after hours, investors largely reacted positively to it. We ended at 138.44, and now in after hours we're at $149, right? So it seems that investors were very fond of AMD's earnings versus Microsoft earnings, right? So that's really it for this afternoon. I just wanted to specifically go through the actual earnings with you rather than just reporting them to you, so that you can figure out how to do that yourself. When you see earnings releases and you're wondering why the stock in your portfolio has dropped even though it beat its earnings expectations, right? So that's it. Once again, it's for informational purposes only. Investing and trading is risky. I'm not a financial advisor. Please go over your investments and trades with your financial advisors or professionals and do your research independently. Peace.